Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am your host, the Lore Dude, ready to destroy all that lied. To give a fair and just trial and definitely not be a moron with a gavel. Good morning, Shikor, Huanta, Rath, Robo, Dream Whisperer, Ice Trick, Cordoon, Hazardous Materials, Mike Romano, and Flatty, what please it, Bob, and Paid Maniac. You get a hello too. Nobody else gets a hello. Except for Loke. Okay. Let's just jump into this. So, shoot. I forgot the other thing. Oh, right. So Twitch is rolling out a new layout for its pages. It might be live right now. I'm not actually sure. Let me double check. There we go. See, I actually thought about that, Mike Romano. If you're remembering, I actually used to do that. I used to have just non-time-sensitive topics to just talk about, usually creative writing or game design stuff. And then I realized that that was just basically trying to pad out the runtime when I could be spending that stream time doing something else. So I figured it was more efficient to work on other things, so we kind of dropped that. It's also partially why we dropped the Tumblr questions from the Loreweek section. Anyways, so it looks like it's not live yet. Unlike Maze. Maze is absolutely live. He's right there, actually. He's not going to be live for very long, though, because he didn't actually tell me where he wants to put that towards. So thank you very, very much, Maze. Very much appreciated. And enjoy the donut death that's coming to you. And personally, I mean, if you just told me, man, we wouldn't have any problems. But here we are. So, Twitch is rolling out a new thing. A new layout for their page. Yay. It's not actually live yet. I just double-checked. Hello, Colin Bluso. But it is going to be going live sometime over the next month or two. I've already seen a preview of it. They've allowed me to kind of poke at it. And there's all these new options and stuff you can do, and it's all kind of total crap. One of the things that amuses me most, though, and I just wanted to share this, is there's the option to set up your schedule. And I was thinking, oh, cool. I could go ahead and use that instead of that plugin I do to show when the stream's going to start any given day. Sweet. No. When I say schedule, I don't mean when a stream starts. I mean when the stream starts. The only way to do it, and it won't let you otherwise, is you have to say exactly what times, what dates, and what games you'll be playing. Now, I don't know what games I'll be playing because I don't know exactly how long any given game is going to take. So that's kind of useless to me. It's more useful for, like, scheduling something that's a scheduled event. Something that's like, I know I'm going to be streaming blah on this date kind of a thing. I already have the website for that, so whatever. So that's useless. I don't even remember what else they were adding. That was the only thing that even caught my eye. Shrug. Next thing I want to talk about, where's my notes? God. Sorry, I'm doing this because the monitor right in front of me is currently blank. Because I'm set up for console streaming right now. So this is the console monitor. So my notes are over there and you guys are over here. Anyways. So some of you may or may not be aware of the fact that there's this game called Vampire the Masquerade's Bloodlines. And there's actually two games named that. VTMB1 and VTMB2, as I've been calling them. And I'm never playing Halo Wars, ever, until it comes time to play Halo Wars. So, the thing is, VTMB1 is starting to get pretty up there in terms of priority. It has a priority factor of 1,077. It's pretty high. Now, VTMB2 is much further down here. There we go, with a priority factor of 569. Here's the catch. VTMB1 is already out. Of course, VTMB2 is not. It has been suggested. Honestly, I'm kind of with you on that, Mike Romano. Crosscode, you got it, Maze. Everyone stop killing Maze. Now that it's like 5 minutes too late. It has been suggested that we go ahead, basically don't play VTMB1 until VTMB2 is about to come out. So the idea here is, let's say VTMB1 gets finished and then fulfilled and funded or whatever, however we want to think of that. And then rather than immediately playing it next to the list, we put it into the waiting list, and then we just kind of schedule that right before VTMB2 comes out. This is an idea that several people have suggested similar concepts for before. Doing lead-up streams to new games where it's relevant. One of the other ones that was suggested just this week was to go ahead and do a playthrough of the Zelda series right before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out to make it more relevant there. So what do you guys think? Yeah, VTMB1, aka the only game that I've streamed or reviewed so far that literally requires a fan patch just to make it runnable. Not streamable, that's different. But just to make the game run at all, which is going to be an automatic negative once we get there. VTMB1 should be played with a community patch. I don't have a choice on that, Maze. Well, my point, Dream Whisperer, is you are not the only person this week even to suggest a similar idea to me, trying to line up relevant streams. And yeah, as Trafin points out, people... I hate to sound all businesslike for a second here, but people will probably be more interested in watching VTMB1 when the hype for VTMB2 is at its zenith, aka right before it comes out. So not exactly a bad idea. And there's also the value with regards to reviewing, aka seeing them side by side and seeing how they compare. And of course, there's just the more thematic benefit of doing the lead-up kind of a thing. So I do admit it's a good idea. I was just curious of your guys' thoughts on this. Takoida does bring up a very valid point, and frankly, what I'm probably going to do if we do that is schedule more time than I think I need by like several days, just to be safe. And if we end up being a little bit early, oh well, right? And yeah, we'll figure it out from there. I don't know if VTMB2 is actually a direct sequel to VTMB1. I'm not sure. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm just saying VTMB, it's because saying Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is no. Hello, mortal. We're currently discussing the possibility of lining up the VTMB1 run right before the VTMB2 run, and a similar idea for future games. It was actually this idea was actually suggested a while ago because there was the idea of doing Final Fantasy, when we did the FF runs. Rather than doing FF7 back when we did that, saving it and doing it, like, say, next week, basically, as a lead-up to FF7R. Although we did just play through FF7 literally 3 months ago, so kind of fresh. Yeah, I am extremely curious about that, Dakota, since, the apocalypse happened in lore. So, where are we going with that? Anyways, food for thought. We're not there yet, but it is something I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. And if I'm being honest, if I was making the decision in a vacuum, I would probably be leaning towards doing that. And kind of making that a thing going forward. At least if we know a future game's coming out in the future. Kind of doing a lead-up stream. Nothing sticks in an RPG. Play through it with a retranslation mod? The problem with that is that that's going to affect the review. Because we can't really review a mod. It's kind of like, well, this is going to be funny, but when we get to the Elder Scrolls series reviews, we won't be playing with mods. At least, not until we've decided that the thing we're modding out is already a negative or a positive. I do like that idea, Hazardous, admittedly. Problem is, looking at the list, I don't think there's anything really relevant for that, other than the two things I've already mentioned. I have never reviewed VTMB1, Pave Maniac. Yeah, KOTOR 2 we will also be doing without mods. Looking at the list here, I don't think any of these have like something relevant coming up. We don't have any Mega Mans coming up. Trails of the Sky, kinda, I guess. I don't know, that's a weird situation. Spellforce 3, Soten. I don't know. Food for thought. Now, why do my notes, where are my freaking notes? I have notes everywhere. Okay, there we go. Alright. So that's one thing I was questioning. And we can't actually get our results until Chords here. So for the next thing I want to mention is categories. So I want to do a survey. I'm not actually ready to do the survey yet. But it is a survey, not a poll. It's purely for my own curiosity and interest. But I was going to ask you guys for ideas on categories with regards to games. The idea is the survey will basically be what types of games are you guys interested in seeing me stream, just in general. So far, we actually brought this up on stream already, but of course, this is Loreweek. This is where we talk about this sort of thing. Some of the categories that were already suggested include weird or artsy stuff, obscure titles, popular indie titles, something old that I like, something old that you like, something new, something hyped or popular, and something bad. And those being kind of general categories. If you guys have any other ideas or concepts there. Dating simulators, no. Something blue. Can I get a donut barrage over here? Something from the list. Not quite, no. That doesn't help this particular survey. I'm not asking you to vote now. I'm asking for ideas for categories. I'll actually throw up a poll, but it'll be a multiple choice poll. You can click as many things as you want in it. Oh, it won't be relevant for the next year or so, but you know me. Or maybe you don't know me. I mean, I'm the guy who's already planning out next March's videos. Obscure but well documented? That would be popular. Because by definition of being well documented, it wouldn't actually be obscure. RPGs? So I'm trying... You notice I didn't say genres, and I'm specifically avoiding saying genres. If you want to add genres, we can. But genres doesn't really help me in terms of figuring out this kind of a thing. Games you hate? That would be bad games. A long-running series where we talk about change in game design. Actually, I kind of hope. I'm looking forward to streaming the Mega Man games for exactly that reason. Popular stuff that is known. Well, we got popular on the list. Yeah, I agree with Mike Romano. If we add genres, I mean, the problem is there are genres, but what exactly does RPG mean? And I don't want to... I sound like a nitpicking question, but when it comes to categorization, genres are enormously broad categories, right? Games deserving of praise but aren't, that would be obscure. And there's tons of genre blenders, too. Niche games, that would be under weird and artsy. We could add the word niche to that. That's a good way to put that. Although obscure kind of fits niche, too, actually. Yeah, I take that back. Let's put obscure, niche. There we go. Nice L here. So regional category. Okay. So, like, I'm thinking European, Japanese, American as the three major umbrellas of regions, but I'm curious, like, what you're thinking in terms of that Imperial Star Destroyer. Forgive me for my voice, by the way. Obviously, we've been going through a visual novel. My throat is a little bit... Everything except for sports games. I'm down. Historical? Yeah, I do plan to not talk for a decent chunk of today, because I got errands to run. By the way, we are not streaming for the second block for today. So we got Loreweek, MLP, and that's it for the day. And by the way, can I just admit openly, because I don't even freaking care at this point, that I'm actually really looking forward to MLP this week. Ignoring the fact that we've got 2 really good episodes to cover today. I need my positivity for the week. You know? I need my positivity moment. My Little Pony, crit source. It refers to My Little Pony. Today we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 23, and Season 2, Episode 24. A gush run? Well, that would actually be games that I love, which is one of the categories. Ace Attorney is good, but I don't think I would qualify it as positive, especially given the case we just did. You know? Old school games, there's actually two categories for that. One, old games that I love, and old games that you love. Yeah, tomorrow we'll be doing the circus case from the second game. The only case I really remember from my previous playthrough of 2. By complete coincidence, the rumination on 2 will be going live this coming Friday. Trend-setting games? That would be hyped or popular. Iconic or legendary titles? Yeah, no kidding, Dakota. It's just for my own information, Crit Source. It's a survey. I don't want to call it a poll. It's a survey. I'm just curious, and I want to gauge people's interest in aspects of my show. That's what this is for. This is for my own information. I like to have information when I make choices and decisions, and I like to know things. Yeah, for real. I'll have to rip her. Educational or thought-provoking? This is going to sound strange, but can you think of an educational game right off the top of your head, Cord? Don't say Assassin's Creed. Carmen Sandiego. Okay, I'm with that. Games made with the intent of making your day better? Can you give an example of that? Crusader Kings 2. I learned so much about... Katamari? Okay, I can kind of see where you're going on that. I had to actually put down Katamari Damacy because it was bothering me too much, but I will agree with the intent involved. Civ, Kingdom Come, okay, that's fair. And of course, Kirby is definitely a game that's very educational. Nah, full breakdown. We're doing it the same way we do Ruminations, off to Ripper. We just do it live. That's really the only difference. We do them live instead of pre-recorded. Yeah, Laura is not into acid trips. Shocking. Hey, Magister. There was one that someone mentioned that caught my attention. Scrolling down. Guilty pleasures. I'm not sure Guilty Pleasures has a category right now, so that might be a new category. So let me give my favorite 2 examples for Guilty Pleasures. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest and Castlevania 2. Both of which are not good games that I still enjoy. So why don't we do this? We've already got bad games as a category. How about we do bad games that suck and bad games that we enjoy, and just split that into those 2. Good morning, Bragwin. Oh god, please do not make me play I Want to Be the Guy. Please do not make me play that. I have played I Want to Be the Guy. I have not gotten that far into it. Super Meat Boy. Games for younger audience, games for older audience. No. First of all, I'm not sure I can think of a game for an older audience other than Farming Simulator. Oh, suggestions are super closed. Again, this is a survey. This is not deciding what's going on the list. This is for my own information. This is for me. This is because I like to have info. I think we have a decent list, though. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up the straw poll. I'm going to leave this up for a while. Because, again, this is a survey, so we're just going to leave this up for a while. Which categories of games do you have an interest in seeing streamed? Multiple choices are allowed. Make sure everyone knows that. Good morning, Alyx. So we've got obscure or niche. We've got popular indie. We've got game that Lore loves. Older. We've got game that we love. Older. New games. Hyped or popular games. Bad games that suck. And bad games that we still enjoy. I feel like I'd... Let's do that. I think it'll be there. Well, it depends, doesn't it, Imperial Star Destroyer? Okay, allow multiple choices. Link only. Boom. Whoop, that's the wrong button. So I'll go and throw the poll up here, and I'll put the poll in the VOD description as well. So please feel free to answer that, or don't. I mean, it's a survey, it's optional. So that's up to you guys. Iconic or legendary, so San Andreas would probably be under, so you say iconic or legendary games, that would be popular or hyped. That would be that category. Because again, popular game is not necessarily a new game. That's why new games is a separate category. Anyways, polls up. That's done. Let's move on to the next point, which is... what is the next point? That is not the next point. Here we go. So we got the categories, we got the Twitch thing, we got the VTNB1 thing. I think we're ready to move on to random news. Is it popular, Nymph? Is my question for you. Culturally significant game? Honestly, most culturally significant games are probably popular as well. Oh yeah, I should throw up the Vood icon. Thank you. Alright. It's time for random news. News. The sky is still blue. No, Nier Replicant is getting a remaster, which supposedly is going to have more done to it than simply being a typical remaster. It's going to be released on PS4, Xbox, and PC, so that's kind of neat. I didn't actually not like Nier all that much, but I know several people who do, and Lord knows that that entire series could probably get a remaster. So for anybody interested in the Nier franchise, the Dragon Guide franchise, whatever the actual proper term is for the Yoko Taro scene, woo. Sea of Stars is a game that's getting a Kickstarter right now, and for the next 20 days, I want to say, which is that one right there. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell is Sea of Stars? Well, if you've ever played The Messenger, this is set within the same timeline, same setting. Now, The Messenger... I don't want to spoil too much about The Messenger, but The Messenger is a game I really want to play. And it's a side-scroller action platformer. So Sea of Stars is going to be an RPG, a turn-based RPG, set within the same, like I said, set within the same setting. It's being kickstarted right now. It's already got a lot of support and funding. No, I haven't had a chance, John. I don't even remember if it's on the list. I guess I can look really quick. Lore Runner... So, Messenger is not on the list. Oh, jeez. So I'm not going to be playing Messenger this year. That would probably go under new, Cord. So, so for those of you who care about Mount and Blade, you probably already know this, but Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord is actually launching into early access tomorrow, which is kind of out of nowhere. But woo, that'll be interesting to see what they've had happening over the last, 6 years at this point? I keep losing track because it's been a really long time. It has been a damned long time, Hyquil Walker. But regardless, that is now finally launching into early access availability, again, starting tomorrow. Ooh. Yeah, very early alpha. Honestly, from what I understand, and this is grain of salt, they're actually putting this out specifically because, you know, people are kind of tired of the total lack of anything. I'm curious what they've been doing for the last billion years. Yeah, exactly, Raskor. Here, have something. God, we're done with it. Let's see, what else here? I know most of you probably don't care, but SGDQ has been postponed. There's the notice about that one. And it's probably not even going to happen until much later, probably around August is the current projected date, because of the virus, because of the current epidemic problems. In place of it, in April, they're having Corona Relief Done Quick. This is going to be a fully online marathon, which they've done before. They did that several times, actually, in the past for emergency situations. In this specific case, Corona Relief Done Quick is donating all of its funding towards Direct Relief, if you've ever heard of them. And they are going to be... They're doing setups for that basically like in the next week. They're going to go ahead and make sure that people are set up for that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not actually going to restream that. We don't usually restream anything other than the big two. But for those of you interested, I did want to go ahead and mention that because, duh. And I'll be kind of idly keeping an eye on it myself with my copious amounts of spare time. To my knowledge, Direct Relief is global. I will double check that right now. Blah, 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 blah. It says U.S. and international. I don't have a lot of info. I don't really know Direct Relief that well. I haven't studied it like I have several other, charities. So I don't know is the full answer. Of course it is Ventures. Why wouldn't it be? People have sped run several categories about World of Warcraft. Crusader Kings 3 continues to have weekly developer logs, but nothing I would call really newsworthy, no. So Nintendo had a mini direct last week. Bunch of little info, nothing really fancy. I'm going to go ahead and link the YouTube video in case anybody wants to watch that, either now or on their own time. The big things that jumped out at me are the fact that BioShock, the Borderlands collection, and the XCOM 2 collections are coming out on the Switch, which is kind of awesome. I have already ordered the XCOM 2 collection. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is getting, we already knew that was coming out on the Switch, but it's getting an additional content thing with very little information about it, but there is additional content, so woo. They had a bunch of other announcements. I'm just kind of jumping over these, but the big ones are the one I just mentioned. Jedi Academy and the Panzer Dragoon remake are out now. As well, in the future, they're also coming out with the N64 game, which I can't think of the name of, but it's this pod racer game from Star Wars Episode 1 is coming out on the Switch as well. Ring Fit also got an update, and I know you're thinking, who cares about that? Well, I do. I play Ring Fit on a daily basis at this point in time because it's a legitimately excellent exercise program. It got an update, which is funny because the update doesn't really do much for the actual exercise part of the equation. It's a bunch of little stuff, little convenience of life features, being able to change the voice of the announcer person. There's a new rhythm mode, which is still kind of, draining on the arms, which you can play if you feel like playing that, with some Nintendo songs built in. They added a few other features. It's nothing really huge, but that's cool. And one other thing happened. Bravely Default 2 got a demo. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, so it's coming out on the Switch now. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share this because I know at least two people who got confused by this. Bravely Default 2 and Bravely Default the Second are not the same game. Bravely Default 2 is actually the 4th game in the series. Because of course it is. Bravely Default 2 is actually going to be a Switch exclusive. It's not a port, it's a new game. So the new Bravely Default game got a demo on the Switch, which is out now. I know I haven't had time to play it. The 3rd game is Bravely Default the 2nd. The 2nd game is Bravely Default. The 1st game is Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light. And yes, they are connected. Spoilers. I know, it's such a pet peeve of mine, the naming schema that games use. What's this game? Oh, it's called God of War. No, it isn't. It's a direct sequel. Anyways, it's God of War 4. Now, which is not the 4th game in the series, by the way. Let's not go into that. Okay, so I talked about Nier, I talked about Nintendo, Sea of Stars, HDQ, Bannerlord. Castlevania is getting Season 4. This is probably not a surprise to anybody who cares and has been paying attention. Whoa, that's a big link. But, yeah, they have confirmed that Castlevania is getting a Season 4 on Netflix. I don't actually have anything to say about that. But it does segue nicely into my next topic, which is that they're making a Dragon's Lair live-action thing on Netflix. I don't know what I think about this one. I'm curious how many of you even know what Dragon's Lair is. No insult intended. It was not exactly a widespread game. Oh man. Dragon's Lair is a very old arcade game. It was done on Laserdisc, which was unusual for the time, and it was basically the entire game was a fully animated cutscene with QuickTime events, and you had to hit the button pretty much at the exact same moment, or else you would die instantly. The whole game, it's not a good game. Like I said, it is literally QuickTime event the game. That's the entire game. But the thing that made it so interesting was the fact that it was an extremely well animated game for the time. And I gotta add that it's pretty normal by today's standards, but seeing that level and that quality of animation caught a lot of people's attention and kind of put it into its own little niche, or niche if you prefer. So that's coming out. Ryan Reynolds is both producing it and going to be in it. So that's neat. What I find most interesting about this, though, I do actually have something to talk about this one. How many of you ever played or heard of Quantum Break? I will raise my hand on this one because I actually did a rumination on it. And while I don't remember a lot about the plot of the story, I do remember the function of Quantum Break. Surprised how many people were saying yes. So for those of you not aware, Quantum Break was a video game that was also a TV show. Now that was the big experiment. They were trying to merge the two genres and basically use television as a form of storytelling for a video game. It was a neat idea, and it didn't really go anywhere. It basically left, spoilers, it left on kind of a to-be-continued thing, and to my knowledge, it never has been. Yeah, not Quantum Leap, different thing. I bring that up, though. Yeah, the cutscenes were live action and filmed basically with actual TV stars and, with the overall TV cameras and equipment and crew and all that fun stuff. It was a decent game. Like I said, and I don't remember much about the game itself, but I remember the concept. And here's my second point. How many of you remember Minecraft Story Mode? Now, we actually streamed Minecraft Story Mode, as well as Minecraft Story Mode Part 2. But the specific reason that I'm bringing up Minecraft Story Mode is that came out on Netflix. I don't actually know if it's still on Netflix, but my niece played that a little bit on Netflix. Because what they did was kind of weird. What they did is they took all of the major choices, because for those of you who haven't played, Minecraft Story Mode is like any other Telltale game. There's like a bajillion little choices which affect a few lines of dialogue, and then there's like 12 or so major choices that affect the branching of the story, so to speak. So what they did was they basically got rid of all of the little choices and just kept in the big choices, and while you're watching on Netflix, a button would pop up, and you could actually pick which choice you wanted. I thought that was a great idea. I was actually kind of hoping that they would do more with that. And it turns out they're making a Dragon's Lair live-action series. And you probably already see where I'm going with this. I find myself wondering if this is another segue into that concept of interactive Netflix. Because that really was Dragon Lair's shtick, right? Yeah, and yes, Don Bluth was involved with that, and is involved with the new one, by the way, for those of you curious. Honestly, Linkensky, I know you're kind of joking, but yeah. And I was gonna say, yeah, Black Mirror did something like this as well. I should clarify. And I know they haven't done that many. This is not exclusive. I'm just sharing the ones that I actually knew. But this, in my opinion, both as a consumer, as a person, as well as from a financial business point perspective, this actually makes a lot of sense to me. We know the Telltale type of thing has its own audience base, and it's not a small one per se. It's not huge. It's not, but it's like in betweeny, you know. It's a decent sized audience base, and Netflix is incredibly widespread. Netflix pushing out basically what are effectively Telltale choose your own adventure games as far as their show design is, in my opinion, an excellent idea, because it can be pushed out in a manner that it didn't, like, as I say, because you guys remember the interactive movie stuff back in the day, right? And those kind of died mostly because of everything at the time and the irritation with actually making them and the extra cost involved and the DVDs that were required and blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, how many households... Well, okay, that's not a fair way to put that. Netflix is widespread enough to take advantage of this. Let me put it that way. And ubiquitous enough in order to catch people that this kind of thing otherwise wouldn't. And there's a reason I keep specifically saying the Telltale thing. Because Telltale, if you remember, doesn't really have branching narrative. Not like, say, Detroit Become Human. Detroit Become Human, well, that kind of thing just isn't really feasible. The Telltale thing, a lot more feasible. Because, okay, for those of you not aware, for those of you who haven't actually done this, hi, Larian. The Telltale thing doesn't really branch. You'll change how a scene will go, or maybe you'll see a scene that you didn't otherwise see, but then you'll go right back onto the main story. Now, while that kind of sucks, and it's the most commonly mocked thing about Telltale, the truth is that is substantially easier and cheaper and less time-consuming to develop, which is why I keep saying the Telltale thing. Because at that point, it's not actually... This is why I'm not calling this a choose-your-own-adventure thing, because it's not. It's more like, you know, choose the path, choose which side of the road you're driving on. It is kind of more accurate here. We'll see. This was just announced like yesterday or the day before. This is brand new. And it kind of got my brain going. That's why I'm talking about it still, because I'm very curious where they could go with this. I would agree, Mortal, but, I mean, it would take time and effort and money, just like Detroit Become Human did. I mean, how many years was that game in development? That's the problem when you actually add branching narratives. You are massively increasing your workload. Workload. Blah. Telltale made their game scenic. Anyways, that is mostly all I have to talk about. There's one last thing I have to talk about for Loreweek. So Half-Life Alyx came out. The VR game. So, let me get a timestamp here. Do you want me to talk about it? I know that sounds like a weird thing to ask. Because if I do, there is no way I can talk about it without putting this up. Make sense? Oh, I'm not playing it. Screw that. I'm sorry, guys. I love you. No VR games. I'm not dealing with migraines and headache and nausea just because you want me to cover a VR game. No. If I have to officially add that to the Forbidden List, I will. I could just change the Skyward Sword category to games that cause me physical pain to play. In fact, I'll do that right now. I'm going to update the website this very second. Depends, Linkinsky. Because, yeah, games that literally cause actual pain to play. No. Tell you what, once the holodeck comes out, we'll all be streaming from the holodeck at that point. Whoops, wrong button. Wrong button. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about it. So I am going to go and put up the spoilers thing. Anybody who doesn't care or doesn't want to be spoiled, this is your warning, okay? I'm going to give you a second while I update the website, because I always like to give a little bit of a gap. We'll be back for MLP in probably about 35 minutes, something like that. Where is that? I don't update the Forbidden List all enough. Here we go. Forbidden List. Let's see. We'll update this to say the sequel trilogy. And updated. It is now officially on the Forbidden List, along with the sequel trilogy. Well, of course, Mike Romano, you'll just have a separate window that'll pop up like in the air in the holodeck, and that's me over there, and I'm like, hey, and I'm streaming over there. Honestly, Loner, I've actually thought about this before, because I'm a geek. Something like The Matrix is actually more realistic and feasible in real life than something like the holodeck from Star Trek. So, in my opinion, I should add that at the end of that. Yes, this is Oblivion music, and hello, Love Balthazar. Okay, I think that's plenty of time and waiting. So, this is your last chance to not be spoiled on Half-Life Alyx. Just gonna wait for just a second because I know some people just streamed in here. This is it. This is it. This is it. The big one. The big thing. Waiting a few more seconds. Yeah, okay, so time travel. Let's just drop that right up front. Let's start with that. Half-Life Alyx takes place before Half-Life 2. Not by much. Hang on. The mere fact that time travel is in it all is a spoiler. That's why I wanted to start with that. So it starts before Half-Life 2. It ends after Half-Life 2 Episode 2. So I'm going to skip over the details because those don't really matter for what I want to discuss here. But the general point is you start out as Alyx and you're playing around and blah, 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 blah. And you get to the point where you find out that the Combine has successfully kidnapped and is keeping someone locked away. And the whole game makes it feel like and look like you're going to save Gordon Freeman in order to set up Half-Life 2. And everything leans up to that right up until you rescue the person, and it's the G-Man. So you rescue the G-Man, and he gets out, and he says, all right, so Gordon's been uncooperative lately. I need a new person to work for me. And she's, why the hell would I work for you? Well, I'll give you so the way he purchases her services is he offers for her the chance to change history. And he allows her to alter the timeline such that in episode 2, when her father, Eli, died, she can save him. So she changes the end of episode 2. Then she goes off to work for the G-Man, and then the camera shifts over to Gordon and Eli after episode 2, who is now alive, obviously. And basically it ends on a very severe cliffhanger. We've got work to do, as Eli and Gordon are now going after the G-Man, to be continued. I will start off by admitting I did not think they were going to bother with that at all. I didn't think they were going to try to do anything to actually move the story forward, basically. I was fully expecting that it would just be a straight-up prequel. And again, like I said, the whole game is built up to that point. The whole game is built in such a way that it feels like you're going through this whole adventure to rescue Gordon Freeman from the Combine, which will then lead to Half-Life 2. And everything about that lines up neatly. Right up until Kevin subscribes, which is just insanity. And the moment Kevin subscribes, everything is thrown out the window. Because now they have the possibility of pushing forward. And not only the possibility, they have the expectation of pushing forward. And a premise. And a specific goal, no less. Now, thank you very much, Kevin. Very, very much obliged, as always. Thank you, sir. Do you know where you want to put that one, as far as increasing priority? So, admittedly, my first thought here is, okay. Like, I know that sounds strange, but I'm kind of with it. Especially since they lost the original writer. So, them wanting to do a different story than the original writer's story, okay, that makes a degree of sense. You'll notice, though, if you guys remember from the actual Half-Life Episode 3, which we read on camera, if you'll remember, Alyx was always going to be recruited by the G-Man at the end of that. That was like how the game was going to end. Remember that? And there was implications there was going to be another time jump, and the next time we'd be playing as her. So this does still kind of lean in the same general direction. I have to admit, the biggest problem for me here is, and I agree with Dakota, trying to employ G-Man more makes perfect sense. In fact, I was a little bit surprised that, you know, initial reports were saying G-Man wasn't in Alyx at all. I'm like, bull crap. Oh no, he's there, he's there. Yeah, that's the big one right there, Bellicalic. Like, when's the next game coming out? Okay, you did this whole setup. You basically ended on yet another cliffhanger. I swear to God, you guys take another 10 years to make the next game, I'm going to punch you in the face. You know? This actually ties into another thing. So, when we were doing the Half-Life lore run, I mentioned that one of the big reasons, if not the biggest reason why they never continued the Half-Life series, that they said, this is the reason they gave us, is that they wanted to they wanted the game to try new tech. It had to go into new technology. They can't just make a new game. They can't just make another Half-Life game. Now, first of all, let me just say that that's a load of bollocks, but ignoring that for a moment, and we dissected how stupid of a thing that was back during the Half-Life lore run. What's funny is right around when Half-Life Alyx was released, they did another interview which said the exact same thing. Oh, we haven't done Half-Life 3 because we wanted to push forward the tech and blah, blah, blah. Okay, thought. Maybe... No, I agree completely, Dakota. Maybe, just as a thought, just as an idea, maybe don't make your games so story-centric and keep having them end on cliffhangers. I think at this point, all of the actual Half-Life games made by Valve have ended on a cliffhanger of some kind or another, of varying degrees. Episode 2 being the biggest one, although arguably this one now actually trumps that in some ways. Like I said, I think that excuse is bollocks. I don't believe them, to be completely clear. Now, Javan points out, thank you for reminding me, Javan. Javan points out another angle of this that was occurring to me. Any Half-Life 3 they made was going to fail because of the fact that there was just way too much buildup, and they missed the gun. They should have made it back when they said they were going to. They didn't. It became a meme, and then they were too late. And pretty much at about that point in time, they were too late. Anything they made was just going to flop. Right? So, this is a nice way to kind of distract and segue into what would actually be Half-Life 3. Because now they can make a new Half-Life game, call it whatever. Half-Life Buggly Boo. You know, instead of calling it Half-Life, whatever, like Half-Life Alyx, right? It's not the third game, what are you talking about? So, they can make it called Half-Life G-Man, for example, or whatever. Half-Life Vendetta or Revengeance or whatever the hell you want to call it, and kind of segue into actually making another sequel. And now, you know, the momentum of that joke has been dulled because of what they did. It's still going to be a problem, of course, but you can kind of see the reasoning there. Half-Life 7-4. Oh, dude. Oh, dude, you just gave me a great idea for a game that will never be, Javan. Oh, I want that game now. I don't even know how to put that. Like, how do I describe that? So you're playing as the G-Man, right? And you can talk to people and tell them things, or you can give people certain things, and that changes what they do. And then you just sit back and you basically go to a third-person camera, which you can just move around, and you just watch the results, and you're trying to get to a certain result. And if you fail, you just rewind and change what you give them, or change what items you put where. Basically, setting the stage, right? Like a puzzle game. Yeah, it would be a puzzle game. You set the stage, make sure this is here, make sure this item gets to this scientist, make sure this guy is inclined to push this thing, so he's going to interact with this specific person, and then you sit back and you watch it kind of go. It's like, well, hang on. Rewind. Let's do that instead. I want that game now. Damn it, Javan. Why would you do this to me? You wouldn't even need good graphics for a game like that, too. So you could pull down a development cycle by just making it, you know, relatively simple in terms of graphics, or maybe like pull it 2D or whatever. Or you could just do it in the Half-Life engine, which is a fairly malleable engine, let's be honest. Anyways. I don't know what the hell's going on at Valve these days. This is the final thoughts I wanted to give here before we move on to our next segment. I really don't know what they're thinking. Trials of Mana, you got it, Kevin. Half-Life Boogly Boo. So noted. Thank you again, sir. I don't know what the hell Valve is thinking at this point. I really don't. They have resources and contacts out the wazoo. They have so much capacity and political clout in order to pull things together to make games, and they don't. Now, they make tons of money off of Steam, which kind of brings me back to my point. I mean, I suppose this kind of exposes the nature of my mentality, but what are they doing with all the money they're making? What's the point of making that much money if you're not going to use it? And yeah, rep. They've got rep, too. They have rep, they have influence, they have contacts, they have star power. I don't know what the hell they're thinking at this point. You gotta spend it. Emperor Palpatine in company form. Yeah, I've been idly watching that Java. Not seriously watching it, obviously, but it's interesting where they're going with that. No, I've got it. Guys. Steam, or that is to say Valve, is actually the God Emperor of mankind. Quick, shovel more psychers in. Just get... Come on. Shovel all the money in there. Keep the flame going. Ugh. I don't know. I don't freaking know at this point. What I do know is that I got nothing else to share. Oh no, Disney is much worse. Disney is my front corporation I've been using to take over the world bit by bit. So, I guess that might not be worse. I guess that's kind of up to your opinion. Either way, Uchiha Daisuke is super awesome. Thank you very, very much for the sub. Very much obliged and appreciate, sir. Okay. Bioshock. You got it. One day relatives will make it. Yeah, see you around, Max time. I'm going to go and chop off Loreweek.